Hi, my name is Moona. I'm really excited to talk to you today, Jazzy. That's right, isn't it? Yep, that's right. Lovely to meet you. I'm really excited. I need to do the same as your YouTube videos. Let's get on with the video. Yeah, I always do that. I'll never change. So I have some questions to ask you. Firstly, why and what made you first interested in starting YouTube videos? Why did you start that? I remember it was about 2015 and I was leaving school at the time, and I was a bit nervous about what other people would think, because young people tend to be judged. But I was using vlogs on my phone, but I wasn't uploading them to YouTube at all. I liked blogging, but that was quite difficult, and like talking about myself was difficult because English wasn't my first language. So I decided vlogging would be quite a good idea. And I realised there weren't any deaf role models around at the time in 2015. There weren't a lot around. So I thought, what am I waiting for? So I thought, right, it's time to start my YouTube channel. So after school I felt quite ready, and I linked my video to beauty and makeup because that's what I was interested in at college. That's what I was studying. And straight away I had so many positive comments from deaf people saying how pleased they were to see a deaf YouTuber, because it was really difficult to access hearing YouTubers' content because they didn't understand the subtitles. The subtitles were really poor, but they could access a deaf YouTuber easily because it's fully accessible in BSL. And I realised how important it was to have a deaf role model. So I carried on filming. I always filmed myself anyway. So then I started posting it online. I'd like to point, you said English is not your first language, so you use BSL to express yourself fully. Would you agree? Yes, definitely. Also, use BSL so deaf people can look up to you. Yeah, you're right. It was really important to me at the time because when I was younger, there were no deaf models online. So when I was young growing up, there was no social media, so I grew up without that influence. But when I arrived at secondary school, one of my teachers was deaf, so they were my first deaf role model, and I realised there must be other deaf children out there at school, either in mainstream school or deaf unit, who might be struggling with their confidence or with their deaf identity. And I think it's really important to promote deaf role models. So that's why I decided, why not set up my own YouTube channel, and it's grown from there. What topics do you talk about on your YouTube channel? Oh, lots of different things. Some are linked to the challenges of being deaf and deaf issues. I do a lot of challenges for my hearing family because my hearing family can sign, so people can see what our relationship is like. And that's important for families of deaf people to sign so they can have a good relationship. I also do a travel vlog because I love to travel. I love going to different places. So my dream is to go touring around like deaf schools, because I would love to see the similarities and differences between them, like see what they're like in Britain and other countries. And beauty, because for 2 years at college I studied hair and makeup, so I'm interested in that. So it's a real variety of things. In your videos, what have you found hard or challenging to talk about? You include your family in your videos and share a lot of personal things about your life for the world to see. Yeah, I remember when I started, I refused to talk about myself or my deaf identity because I didn't feel comfortable. It was a new thing for me, so I worried what other people would think or whether they would judge me. So I did challenges, and then I realised there was nothing about deaf identities or deaf stories out there. So I started telling my story, and I realised that a lot of deaf people watching could relate, and they wanted more and more, and I'm raising deaf awareness too. You talk on your vlog about deaf awareness a lot. Do you think that not a lot of deaf people feel like they've had that experience out there or exposure? Definitely. I've had a lot of comments saying they've really felt like empowered about their deaf identity, because I've been talking about exploring my deaf identity, and it's made me realise that I'm not the only one. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and I didn't realise that a lot of deaf people felt that way. I think lots of deaf people relate to you because you're deaf and they're deaf, so you're a role model for them. you talk about deafness and the deaf community, and you talk about deafness and deaf identity, but do you feel you're the only person talking about this? There are no others talking about it. You have to explain and explain and explain, and you've got a responsibility for the deaf community. Should others be talking about this and sharing responsibility as well? Yeah, really, honestly, because back in 2015 it was very different, and now it's very different. In 2015 there were very few deaf YouTubers or influencers, and now in 2021 there are more and more deaf influencers and YouTubers. So it's nice to see other people sharing their experiences. It's really important. And since I've set up, people have realised that if I can do it, they can do it too, and that's really important. Also, I feel like before I felt a really heavy responsibility for raising deaf awareness, and now that others are sharing their experiences, we can relate to each other. We know we're not alone, we're all together. It's nice to know that. Lots of deaf people want to set up a YouTube channel, but they're not as successful as you. So what's your advice to encourage them to carry on? So I think my advice would be to stay committed to filming videos, and be excited about it, but be yourself. Don't try and change or to copy others, just be yourself, because people like to see who you are. Talk about your deaf experiences. Audiences, both deaf and hearing, are really interested in that because they don't know you, it's new to them. And also, don't let people drag you down. If you get negative comments, don't give up. You never give up. They have nothing better to do than post horrible negative comments. Just ignore them. I used to worry about the negative comments and want to give up, but my parents asked me, why are you listening to them? They told me not to listen to the positive comments and to ignore the negative ones. So now I'm aware of that, and I focus on the positive comments, and I realise it's made me thicker skinned. So I think it's really important to be committed and to enjoy making videos. I could agree with you on that completely. Why do you think your channel has been so successful? Oh, that's a hard question. I think because I make sure I connect with other deaf people. So through email, text, Instagram, whatever, if they contact me for advice, I'd never ignore them. I always reply, and then word sort of spreads. Oh, you know Jasmine, she's got really relatable videos. I think before there weren't any vlogs on deaf related things, and then we created these vlogs with deaf stories. They've just become so popular. I think because we're different, people are new to that, and I think that's what made my channel so successful. So you're deaf and your family can sign. Do you think your family gave you the confidence to set up your YouTube channel because they can communicate and they're also involved in your videos as well? Do you feel confident? Oh, definitely 100%. I feel like if my family didn't sign, I don't think I would have set up my channel because I wouldn't have had the confidence. As I was growing up, my mum and dad were really encouraging and made sure I felt confident. For example, I remember one day when I was about 6 or 7, I wanted to go and buy an ice cream, but I said to my mum, I can't, they won't understand me, I can't go by myself. Mum said, go, watch, you'll come back with what you want, go and try, and if you can't, I'll help you. I said, okay. So I went and I bought an ice cream, and she was right. I said, Mum, look. And she said, I told you. So you never know if you don't try. It made me realise I need to have confidence. And when I was younger, I was upset that lots of people were staring at me, watching me sign. And I said, why are they watching me? I'm so fed up. Why are they staring at me? And my mum said, just ignore them. They're staring at you because you're unique. So I was like, oh, okay. And I learnt from that. My family really helped my confidence, and I really appreciate them. Our family has a really close relationship because they can understand me, I can understand them, and we communicate well. My family thought when I set up my YouTube channel, they knew I felt a bit unsure, but my family really encouraged me and supported me and really helped my confidence. My parents thought I was just uploading videos and that was it. They didn't really realise I was going to be so successful, working with different brands, raising deaf awareness, deaf representation in films. They were like, wow. And I said, well, you made me do it. Yeah, you'll have to thank your family for their support, encouragement, and increasing your confidence, because you're really successful and you've worked with lots of different brands. So what different brands have you worked with? Well, 2 years ago, I worked with Samsung. Wow. Yeah, I did 2 presentations. One about how to become an influencer, like my experience, who I work with, the process, and people found that really interesting. The other one was a music mix with Akela, a grime artist. And that was about the future of music, how to improve. Like, for example, the lyrics were going around the room on the wall. It was fantastic. Oh, wow. Yeah, we had loads of good feedback for that. It was really, really good experience, and I learned lots of stuff about that. And afterwards, like, a lot of deaf people came up to me and said, you've made me feel like I can do it. And I said, yes, you can. I think it's really important to work with different brands to show, like, deaf, like, we can do this. It's deaf representation. If we didn't work with different brands, there wouldn't be any deaf awareness. We wouldn't be represented out there. Hearing people wouldn't hear about us, and deaf people wouldn't know. Wow, that's amazing. Now, so I want to ask your advice. So what advice would you give young people about how to stay safe online? Like on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I think you need to make sure that if you're filming yourself, you need to make sure there isn't any personal information like letters or addresses in the background, because you need to take that off, because people are really nosy. They might look really closely at your videos. You need to stay safe and make sure your background is clear. There's no personal information behind you. Also, just to let you know, you will have both positive and negative comments. Life isn't perfect, so you will get negative comments. The first time I really struggled with it and I wondered how I'd cope, but I realised it made me quite thick-skinned, so I'm aware of that. And you will be okay. Don't set up and think it will be all positive comments. You just have to break through that. If you have any bullying online, it's always important to talk to people. Don't hold it in. It's not a good idea to be silent, because it builds up and it becomes worse and worse. So don't let it build up. Talk to someone. I've done it before. I've held it all in and I realised it's not good for me. I talked to my parents and my PA, who supports my YouTube channel, and I realised I felt so much better. So it's really important to talk to people. Also, I think it's okay to have a break from social media, to have a bit of balance. So if it's taken a toll on your mental health, or you can't cope, it's getting a bit too much, just have a break. That's okay. Your mental health is really important. So that's how you stay safe. Thank you for explaining that. So, Jasmine, do you think of yourself as a role model? And why is that important for deaf people? Like I said before, when I was younger, there was no one to look up to. When I was growing up, there was no one. There was only my teacher, who was deaf, and I looked up to him. When I was young, there was no social media, no smartphones, nothing like that. So when I started going to deaf events, I realised there were so many other people like me, and that really built my confidence. So now there's loads of deaf role models, which is great, because other young people will be more confident. They'll realise they don't have to hide away, because deaf role models show that there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Like now, I finally have deaf role models on social media. So myself, I consider myself a deaf role model, but there are others too. So how many videos do you have on your YouTube channel? How many videos? Oh God. I think I have about maybe 170, 180, something like that on my YouTube channel. Maybe 180, something like that. There could be more, I don't really know. I haven't checked recently. I think the last time I checked was about a month ago. Okay, so I wanted to ask you another question. What's the most difficult video you've ever done? I think what was most difficult for me was showing my voice, because I don't use my voice. So I filmed Can Siri understand my deaf voice? And I was really, really worried about that. Really nervous, because I didn't know what other people were going to say. Like, oh, your voice sounds terrible. But, I mean, I had a bit of both in the comments, positive and negative, but it made me realise there's nothing wrong with a deaf voice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's natural. Also, I did, can my hearing family understand my deaf voice? Both of those were the ones I was most nervous about, and both linked to my voice, of course, because I don't use my voice. So I always sign, and then I was like, oh, my voice, the world will hear my voice for the first time. It was really scary. Thanks. So to summarise, what would be your advice for deaf young people who want to set up a YouTube channel but are a bit nervous? What would you tell them now? I would say that if you feel like you can't do it, don't ever feel like that. You can do it. If your brain tells you you can't do something, just do it. And it's okay to feel nervous. It's natural. When I first started, I felt nervous, but I realised everyone feels the same. So my advice is to enjoy making videos. Enjoy yourself. That's the most important thing. And you enjoy making videos? Oh, definitely, yeah. And you add subtitles and special effects. Yeah, but the subtitles, English is not my first language, so it's really difficult doing the subtitles. I spend about 15 minutes filming something, and then adding the subtitles and editing would take me about 5 hours. But I have a PA who checks my English and make sure it's all right. I think it's better to have a PA to support you with English or support your emails and stuff. It's so useful. But I do enjoy editing and adding the special effects. I like to use different ones and try to do things differently every time with things flashing up in the videos, because I like the editing. And I like to see what's new and things like that. It's my favourite part. I like how you start the videos. Let's go on with the video. Of course, I love doing those. Let's go. That's your brand. On your YouTube channel, what are you really talking about? Most recently, I've been talking a lot about deaf stories. For example, yesterday I was with my dad, and we've never filmed before. And he was talking about what it was like to bring up a deaf daughter, why he learnt BSL and why it's so important. He saw lots of people, and the doctor told him that most families don't learn BSL. My parents were really shocked. Wow, but they have to communicate with their deaf children. They can't ignore them. And that made him realise why it's so important to learn BSL. So we're really trying to encourage that. It's 2021 now, and BSL is still not widely taught in schools. I mean, really, it's 2021. So we have French and Spanish, but people don't really speak other languages in Britain. It's rare to have to use another language, but you will meet a deaf person, maybe in the shops, for example. And there's a bit of panic and you use gestures, but if you already knew sign, it'd be so much easier. So it's really important to learn BSL in schools. I agree with you. You've brought up lots of deaf awareness, deaf identity, and that BSL is really important. And I think that's what you do beautifully. Oh, thank you. So I want to say thank you, and Deaf Unity, I want to say thank you too. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.